all tied up. Have you ever woken up in the middle of the night in fear and you can't move your legs, or you can't get your foot to the brake and the car's going faster and faster, or you feel like the goal is just right there, but you just can't get your legs to move, and then when you wake up you realize the sheet's tied around your legs. All tied up. One thing we can remember about being all tied up is that it's always us that ties the knots. It might seem like someone else has done it because they did that and they hurt me. Or they did that and they hurt someone I love. And so we tie a knot. But we tied the knot. It doesn't make the behavior okay when we untie those knots. But what it does is it frees us. You see, as long as those knots are tied around our heart, we can't experience the presence. Does that mean that it's always there? No. But sometimes it comes back and it invades our consciousness and it sets up a chain of thought that's difficult to get out of. I've only been in such pain that I couldn't find a position that was comfortable one time in my life, but it lasted for months. I was holding a knot. I was tied up. I was not forgiving someone who was very close to me. And at the time I didn't realize that's what caused my back pain. But I was in knots literally because I had tied this knot around my love, allowing that love to express through me for a person I care deeply about. I think that this was necessary for me to see that, because what it did was eventually I started meditating again. I started practicing the exercises that my chiropractor gave me, the stretches, which were very valuable. But going into the meditation and feeling that flow of love helped me to release the knot by my forgiveness. Did it change the situation? No. But it sure enough changed me. I was feeling this pain that I get. It's in the same place that I got from that episode, but it wasn't as bad. But I was feeling it in my right shoulder. It's kind of like a signal that I get. If I feel that ever, I got to check in with my consciousness because something's going on. And I was driving down the road and I felt it. And then it popped into my head like a light bulb, and I knew. So I really believed it was a divine guidance. But there was a person who I used to work with who I had years and years ago. And you got to know, now I've done forgiveness work and I've done journaling on all these things, trying to make a list of all the people I'm holding any kind of resentment to and then consciously making a decision to forgive them. But I left this one out on that list. This was from back, I don't know, the early 2000s. And in that moment, I said a prayer and acknowledged aloud, as I was driving in my car, so it didn't really matter, it was aloud, and I forgave him. And do you know that immediately that pain went away? So I've seen it work. When we're all tied up, we are cutting off the flow of life through our body. When we're all tied up, we are stopping the flow of nutrients from our blood into the cells of our body. You might not believe me, but there's a word for it. Oxygen. Oxygen is definitely one of those nutrients. But the food that we eat, we can be eating just all the right and perfect foods, but they're not getting to ourselves as long as we're tied up in knots. Fight or flight mode, okay? That's tied up. It is involved with anger and resentment and anxiety. And when we're in that fight or flight mode, all of our nutrition is going to our large muscle groups. So we can hold on to that resentment. And we can keep that body all tied up and those muscles tense, even though there's no real need. There's not a tiger behind me. It's all in my thought patterns. And so I've got a choice, because it's only in my thought patterns that I'm going into that fight or flight mode. So I can make a change. I got a couple Bible verses I want to read. In Matthew chapter 18, if I can find it real quick. I'll just skip it if I can't find it. How many times, I'm going to paraphrase it. How many times should I forgive my brother? This is Peter asking Jesus. How many times? Up to 7 times, Peter says? And Jesus says, certainly. Up to 70 times 7 times. And what does he mean by that? He means as many times as you've got to. As many times as it takes. That's how often. Does that make the behavior okay? Does that make it right? No. But it means we're not going to allow this that's happening out here to tie us in a knot and keep us from realizing the truth of who we are. Because how can we feel joy if we're all tied in a knot? All tied up. The other scripture is from John chapter 6 and verse 53. You might recognize this verse because it's where communion comes from. Jesus said to them, truly, truly, I say to you, unless you eat of the body of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you have no life in yourselves. That was always a puzzling thing for me. And this morning, I picked up this Science of Mind magazine that was a gift to me. And in it, there's an article by Rocco Errico. And I had no idea I was going to use this verse until I read this morning. Here's what it says. Among Semites who speak Northern Aramaic, one often hears them say, I have eaten my body and drunk my blood, just as an expression. Now, we don't say that in English. I've never heard anybody use that word. But Jesus would have heard it, and all of his disciples that he was speaking to would have heard it. Because they were from that area of Palestine where that dialect of Aramaic was spoken. And what Rocco says is that idiom means the speaker has worked to the point of exhaustion. How about that? The speaker has worked to the point of exhaustion. And there's another similar phrase that you hear. I have eaten the body of my dead people. Whoa. What does that mean? I have labored under extreme difficulties. To me, that's saying we've got to put feet on our prayers. We have to do the work. That if we don't loosen those knots and untie ourselves, it's never going to happen. We have to do that work. And it may be that it's not easy. Because our ego mind feels hurt. Our separate self is a victim of whatever that was. But it is still, whatever it was, is still holding us in knots. There's an essay that I really like a lot. It's written by a guy named Emmett Fox. And I like it so much that I was reading it one day, and some words started jumping out off the page for me, and I wrote a song. And I'm not going to sing the whole song, but I want to sing part of it. Because sometimes when we just speak words, it's not as effective as when we hear them put to a tune. So, I'm going to play the ancient medieval bard, or the shaman from back before there was even written language, and I'm going to sing this few lines to you. It comes from an essay, very short. I highly recommend it. It's called The Golden Key. And the golden key goes like this. Stop thinking about the difficulty, whatever it is, and think about God instead. It's real simple. Talk about untying the knots. Stop thinking about the difficulty, whatever it is, and think about God instead. How do we do that? How do we get our mind off of that difficulty? In Unity, we like to use some techniques that are in our spiritual toolbox. And one of them is affirmations. So you might have an affirmation like this. I'm filled and surrounded by the perfect peace of God. Or one like this. I'm a child of God. Just affirm the truth. I'm filled and surrounded by the perfect peace of God. God is guiding me now. Stop thinking about the difficulty, whatever it is, and think about God instead. I'm filled and surrounded by the perfect peace of God. God is love, and I am love. God is with me now. Let's say that one again. God is with me now. God is with me now. God is with me now. Once we've untied those knots, what did that? Spirit breath. We are opening ourselves to the flow of joy, the flow of peace, the flow of love, all of the spiritual gifts that are our inheritance as children of God are now open to us. They flow from us and they affect everybody around us. We can open up and untie those knots by seeing the Christ in everyone we meet. We can open up and untie those knots by gratitude. In the midst of all of the stuff that happens in life, I am grateful for air conditioning. I am grateful for this day, for this moment that life is flowing through me right now. So, we can go from the little things to the big things. It doesn't matter. That feeling of gratitude as a way of untying the knots. Maybe it's someone, maybe it's yourself that needs to be forgiven. But once you open up, the peace of God shining in me now. The peace of God shining in me now. The peace of God shining in me now. The peace of God is shining in me now. When we're untied, the peace of God is shining in you now. That song was written by James Twyman. He told me I could play it any time. The words come from Lessons in Truth. They're one of the exercises in the workbook for students. So as part of this message, I want to sing you one more song. Because we don't have to do it by ourselves. Because we always have help. We do have to ask for it. We do have to claim it. There's a power in saying yes to the Christ within us that aligns all of the power of the universe behind us. And that may sound amazing, and it is amazing, but it is your inheritance as a child of God. Remember, God loves you. Remember to love your neighbor as yourself, to love God. Stop thinking about the difficulty, whatever it is, and think about God instead. This next song is by Daniel Nahmod. It's called Water. Water is often used to talk about God. God is the ocean and we are the waves. And he's got so many other good ideas. I want to be like water coming down the mountain into shadowy canyons flowing from pool to stream. I want to be like water. Head uphill no more. Because I'm bound for the sea. We're already a wave on the sea. I've seen my share of struggle when I thought that I knew best. When I've sailed through the storm, instead of stopping to rest. And it always seemed the hardest when I made up my stubborn mind. Well, I'm changing my ways this time. Wanna be like water coming down a mountain into shadowy canyon, flowing from pool to stream. Wanna be like water, head uphill no more. I am bound for the sea. Have you ever seen an eagle head straight into the wind? He doesn't pick a fight, spreads his wings and just gives in. And in the end he always makes it home just fine. Yes, he knows every storm subsides. Wanna be like water coming down a mountain into shadowy canyon, flowing from pool to stream. Wanna be like water, head uphill no more. should take its course. No more thinking that I know where this river's meant to go. I've railed against the stars for the cards that I've been dealt, for the lottery I've never won, or the heartaches that I've felt. But it always seems when I let go, expectation and regret, life has plenty of surprises for me yet. Wanna be like water coming down a mountain in a shadowy